Hello. This is going to be a good one. I've got Jeff Frankenstein from the Newsboys talking to us today. He is literally on tour in the car, sitting on his iPhone. We're going to take a few minutes with him and talk about life playing with the Newsboys and also a great song that they've just released. Not one necessarily that they have written, but it's He Lives, an incredible song from Great Church. And we're looking forward to hearing all about even the experience of worship in those incredible concerts of worship, Christian music that the Newsboys puts on every night, so many nights throughout the year. So looking forward to this. Jeff is standing by. Here we go. Jeff.
Hey,
Well, looks like looks like you found yourself some random car there out on the road. Tell
yes,
us.
sir. We are out on the road with the Billy Graham organization, and we're up in the Northeast doing 8 shows with them. And
Oh, fun.
so all these concerts are outdoors, and they're on these random pop-up stages that go up all over, the cities that we play.
Yeah.
And so, I'm in the back of I'm in a car today because there's really no other place to go. So we'll make it work though.
Well, I think it's great. We'll just zone in, fly in on, a day in the life of Jeff Frankenstein and the Newsboys. I'm so interested. I'm always fascinated by what it's like behind the scenes, on the road as you go. It must be just incredible experience actually playing outdoors, having the people come, just letting the sound fly, and you're playing such classic, incredible songs that so many people have a history with your band. So, must be a great experience, eh?
Yeah, it's really cool, especially on this tour we're on right now. It's all these events are free, so you really don't know what's going to happen. You just set up a stage in the middle of town, and
Yeah.
the other day we had like 8,000 people just
Wow.
magically show up on the side of a fairgrounds hill.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you went from something where there was just like 4 cows to like an 8,000 seat concert. People
Yeah.
come in, all the events are free, and people respond, and it's really cool. So that's what we're up to these few weeks here out on the road, and
All right.
it's been fun, man. We've been really fortunate to, as you know, have a long career, and
Yeah.
especially after COVID and everything that happened through that in our industry. It's great to be back on the road, and you never take a
Right.
show for granted. That's for
For
sure.
sure. Well, just so that we're all on the same page, tell us how long have you been with the Newsboys? How did you get with the band? When did that happen, and how long's it been?
So I think I'm coming up on 30 years with the band, which is
Oh my
pretty
goodness.
crazy.
Wow.
I was kind of in an interesting position. I was when I joined the band, I was a sophomore in college. I was
Yeah.
living in Detroit, and I had a buddy who was a youth minister, and he had the idea of bringing the Newsboys into a local gymnasium at that time in the mid 90s. And he asked me if I would drive the band around during the day of the show, which is like the job of a runner. And I think the
Yeah.
only reason he asked me to do that was because my mom had a beautiful brand new Chevy Astro minivan that would be perfect for the job. So I actually ended up driving the band to and from the hotel that day, and that's how I got to know them and meet them. And it just so happened that about 6 months after I met them, they were in need of a keyboard player, and they remembered me from that day. So I got a phone call to my house one day, and it was a Australian guy. It was Peter Furler, and he said, "Man, we're looking for a keyboard player. Would you be interested in auditioning?"
Hmm.
And so within about 3 days, I learned the whole set and drove out to meet the band at a show about 4 hours away from my house. And actually, instead of auditioning me, they put me up on stage with all my gear. And I actually played my very first show with the band the same day I auditioned with them.
Oh my
And
goodness. The rest is
after
history.
that, I didn't even know if I was going to be asked to be in the band or not. And they
Yeah.
said, "Oh, well, we'll see you next week in Indianapolis." So
Wow.
I rushed home, told my parents what had happened, and the next day I dropped out of college And like you said, the rest was history. I went on to do about 280 shows that first year, and then
Oh my
here we are
goodness.
30 years later. So
How
kind of
many how many
crazy.
show how many shows later? I mean, what is that? 280 times 30 years. That's getting on
Yeah, I mean,
10,000, isn't?
I think we've done average about 150 a year over all those years. So it would be a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in this current tour that you are on, I'm thinking everybody's got their favorite moment, of the set, the part where they really look forward to. Maybe it's a place where you're featured more, or it's just a song you really like. But what's like your signature moment in the current set that you guys are singing in these outdoor spaces right now?
Yeah. So in these shows, you get a lot of people that come from multiple generations. So you would have some people here that are, in their 70s, that
Mm-hmm.
have followed Billy Graham for a long time. And then you get a lot of people who are kids that come out. It's a free kind of family event too. And so we see that a lot in our shows lately where we have fans come over three generations, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty bizarre and rare in our time. So in this particular tour, we're playing a lot of songs that are just well-known worship songs, so that kind of anybody who comes
Yeah.
knows the words and can join in. So songs like "King of Kings" by Hillsong
Yeah.
is one that we've
Yeah.
been doing, and then we've got some of our own original songs like "He Reigns," a song
Yeah.
that's been around for a long time, and it's just songs that people can easily follow and easily sing along with, and man, it's cool. Like a lot of, I'm sure your worship pastors know when you find songs that people can all agree on and sing, and there's
Yeah.
something really special that happens in the crowd. So those
Yeah.
that would be it for me. I mean, I think just seeing all those different generations of people singing together, it's not something that you see every day, to this
Right.
extent. It's pretty cool.
Right. Well, over the years, I mean, PraiseCharts has been around for a lot of years. I just went to the Newsboys homepage here, and even though the band certainly has, morphed and changed over the years, but we've definitely been tracking with you and some of the songs. Obviously, we're catering a lot to the Sunday morning church worship world, so they're looking for songs they can really bite into on a Sunday morning, exactly like the experience that you are having. And there you go. There's King of Kings, Hallelujah for the Cross, He Reigns. I mean, it just never goes away. Those are the songs that prevail, the songs that people want to sing, and they'll just be able to bite into, even if there's no lyrics on the screen, or maybe there is, but they're just biting right in. So great
That's great.
to have that. So, but there's a new one, a new worship song that you guys are really bringing onto the scene right now, called "He Lives." So, how did that one kind of come into your mix and become this new expression of worship in your band setting?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think one of the cool things coming from our side, like more of the pop world, is that we're able to take songs and kind of almost cross them over into more of like the pop rock CCM world. And sometimes, we write them on our own. Like, I mean, "He Reigns" would be a good example of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, it's cool to just add in songs that we've always loved, and that song in particular was one we've had in mind for a long time. I know it's been done before, but we kind of have a little bit of liberty to make the songs more rock, and kind of
Yes.
put our spin on them,
Yeah.
which was exactly what happened with "God's Not Dead." That was a song that had been around for a little bit, but we just caught vision of like, wow, we'd love to take that song and just we know it has some mileage beyond just the walls of the church or whatever. So
Yes.
"He
Yeah.
Lives" is kind of a song like that, and with the Easter just being recently in the last month or so, we thought it would be cool to release that one right around Easter weekend. So it's cool. And I have to tell you that I grew up playing in church my entire life. My mom was a worship director at a church, so that's kind of where I learned how to play keyboards. And I wish that we had something like PraiseCharts when
Oh
I was a
yeah.
kid, because our our praise charts was done completely manual style.
Yeah, yeah,
We had like a dot matrix printer, and we would just write the little chord symbols ourselves and try to figure everything out on our own,
yeah.
and print everything out. There was nothing digital back then, so I
No,
was looking at your website earlier today, and I was like, man, if this was around back when I was like 15, it would have changed my life. There's no doubt
totally.
about it.
Yeah. Well, there's no question the inspiration of where Praise Charts came from like 25 or even 30 years ago, because I was starting to dabble with, all of this probably in the early 90s when Newsboys was
Yeah,
around, and the music that you were playing was so inspiring. You and so many other
it's
of the
crazy.
early artists like Tomlin and Matt Redman, and when Hillsong came out, and I was like, we need to be able to capture this stuff so people can play it. So now we're in a day where there you
Yeah,
go. There's like He Lives. We got the charts all nicely written out, and then as you probably know, on so many of the songs, we'll take them all the way up to piano, vocal, and orchestra and everything. So we're making. I mean, I'm hoping, because I have this particular bent towards something I call the rock orchestra, where you can have like the rock
yeah,
sound, but have the strings and the trumpets and the full rhythm section and the choir, but just not sound too churchy, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody that's out there, but it's
yeah,
a personal sound that I
yeah.
really get excited about. So,
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because we just played at First Baptist in Dallas
okay, I've been
recently, and
there.
they
Yeah.
had us. Yes, so they had us in for a weekend to be special guest, musicians, and so we played with their praise team, which if you've been there, obviously, so they go all out on Sunday
Mm-hmm.
mornings. They have pretty pretty complete orchestra
Yeah.
set up with string sections and the whole deal. So they had us in the morning before before the Sunday morning. So we were in there all Saturday rehearsing with a lot of the musicians and just some of the core pieces, but we never actually ran a song with the whole orchestra. But the director there, we were working closely together because it was our camp and his camp, and we had never met each other, and we're trying to incorporate our band into their orchestra in one day.
Right.
And so he had an iPad there. He was a sweet guy, and we were doing the best we could. And so I'm like the closest guy in the band that actually knows any kind of theory. No one else actually in our band
Okay.
reads music at all.
Oh my goodness.
And I can like read music, but not in real time. So I kind of know what's happening, but
Yeah.
I'm like the closest we'll ever have to a theory guy. So it was all up to me. But the guy from First Baptist, he was like, "Well, I'm just going to pull this up on PraiseCharts," and so
Oh, no
sure
way.
enough, he gets the whole orchestral score go there, and so we went through it together. And then I went to go visit him the next day, like early Sunday morning at like 6 in the morning, they did a full orchestra run through in a different room without us, just a recording of us and the
Yeah.
orchestra. And so they were all rehearsing, and it was really fantastic to hear our songs being played back to me in a completely different way with all the strings and orchestra stuff. And then for the very first time in front of the entire congregation, we combined forces and played the
Wow.
songs, and it was really cool. But yeah, so that was a praise charts story for you there.
Seriously, that is the most epic, like that's the consummation of everything, I dream about, is to take that, the classic sounds of all the instruments that have been around for some of them hundreds of years, and then merge
Yeah,
them with that modern sound. And here you are, like the Newsboys showing up on Sunday morning at Dallas,
yeah,
Baptist Church, and then because our charts actually match your recordings like measure for measure, right? So there it would be so much more
yeah,
worth it. It's not like you have to reinvent or figure out how are you going to fit your kind of rock sound in with a totally
yeah.
overdone, redone arrangement of the same song. So
No, I was shocked at how seamless the whole procedure was. It was
mm-hmm.
very cool because I've been in situations similar to that where it wasn't like that. And
Yes. Yeah.
one particular case was we took an overnight flight to New York City to be guests on the Mike Huckabee show one time,
All right.
and the idea with that was that he was running for president at the time. So like I got greeted by Secret Service people and all kinds of crazy stuff, and he was supposed to play with us during the song, and it was "God's Not Dead" was the song, but the label had sent him charts, and I didn't even know they had sent him charts or what it was all about, and they had sent him all the wrong charts and the wrong keys, and that was the wrong arrangement, and he had learned it all, and so it was just a complete. It was so stressful. So I wish it would have
Oh,
gone differently, but
okay.
that's how it
Well,
was.
this is my little sales pitch just to you. It's like if you need music when you're on the road, you just give me a call because we have the charts that match the recording and the key as well. So, I mean, if we're not selling music to
That's
anybody else,
awesome.
at least we can get the music to the Newsboys. So, and I
Well,
love the
it's
idea. Yeah.
that it's funny because I'm going to put myself on the spot here, but I actually have done a lot of contract work with one of your direct competitors. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and I still do. So we were joking about that today, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely aware of the needs of what you guys are looking for and what
Hmm.
our worship leaders and artists are looking for on the road.
No problem. Well, you know what? I have lots of competitors. I've tried to become friends with all of them. So I bet you there's nobody that you couldn't name that I haven't sat down with and we have like high-fived because we're
Yeah.
all working for the same purpose, you know? I mean, there's Song Select
No,
out there
it's
and Music Notes and Lifeway and I don't know,
yeah.
all of that stuff. But I'm happy to work, cooperatively in that way. And I just, these kinds of
That's
stories,
awesome.
like who would have thought that you would say, yeah, we showed up at a church and merged our rock song with a big, massive choir. And trust me, like folks, if you don't know about First Baptist Church, I'm pretty sure I remember when I was there, the orchestra rose up out of an elevator, like the whole thing is on an elevator. It rises out of the ground. And then, this
True
big,
story.
massive screen. It is quite the epic experience being in that place. And I'm sure now just transitioning a little bit here because most churches are like, all right, I don't have an elevator on my stage. I mean, we barely can get 100 people on Sunday morning. And then there's a lot of churches with 500 or 1,000, that kind of like the average sound of, a Sunday morning. And I'm wondering if there's anything you can offer just from a keyboard music production. People are like, I just want to sound like clean and solid and current. I don't want to freak out people. Obviously, you have experience in reaching multi generations, and that's what we got to do most Sundays. So, off the top of your head, can you think of if you're talking directly to worship pastors right now who are doing this week in, week out, couple of tips, couple of experiences, or a word of encouragement? I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, sure. I would say the one of the biggest things is just to keep it simple. I think a lot of
Yeah,
times where we lose our way is that we feel like by adding more things, like more is better, and that
yeah,
it's going to sound bigger just because we have more tracks or we have more things. And I think it's for us, our band has been a four-piece band. Now we're a five-piece band at the moment, but I'm the guy who does all the tracks for the show. I dig through a lot of the multi-track recordings and have to arrange it all and figure out what are we going to play live, and then everything that we can't play live, like programming stuff or
yeah,
arpeggiated synth stuff.
yeah,
You gotta make decisions on, like, do we include this in our tracks or do we keep things simple? And I think if you focus in on the things that are going through that PA system and make sure that every single thing going through there is either important and it's a hook or a main part of the song, then what you'll get is a much better finished product than if you just
yeah.
decide we want to make this sound like the CD. We'll do
Right,
anything to make it sound like the original recording. And I think
right,
we get tempted because we're a generation that wants to hear things like we heard it on the record, and if it's not that way, then we feel like we're messing up. But really, you can there for me, it's always been like I'll dig back into our multi tracks and just pull out the core sounds without a lot of the processing and a lot of the stuff, and let the front of house guys add things to taste that need them, but not just overwhelm people with mastered tracks just in
Yeah.
your face.
Yeah.
And we've had really good success with just spending the time and making sure that it's more quality over quantity, and just, and even in a church setting, just working with your musicians and just letting them know, it takes the pressure off them, because they just, it's like, hey, let's focus in on your strengths, and you just
Yeah.
do that, and don't worry about the other stuff. And
Yeah.
so a lot of the same principles that we use, I think, apply to churches. And growing up in a church where my mom was the worship leader and I worked in a lot of the worship teams that we had, that's where we found good success, and we're able to make things of a higher quality.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like, I mean, even the newsboys don't necessarily want to sound like the recording in every, concert setting. You got to find an authentic sound for that environment and then create that. That's a lot of what you're trying to do.
Well, a lot of our albums, if you dig into the multi tracks, and there's like 120 tracks of stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just like, there's just no way that you can put that through a PA at 110 dB and expect that to make any sense to people.
Yeah.
So it's all about just simplifying it, and making it the best we can that way. And people come up to me all the time. It's funny that you asked that question. They're like, "What's your secret? How do you do it?" And it's like, there is no secret. It's just basically removing stuff you don't need, and
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
too, finding that guy at front of house and at your soundboard who is willing to work at it and be part of the band. Like our front of house guy, he's almost like a band member. The way that he mixes our
Yeah.
shows is like he's almost playing an instrument. So
Right.
training up that
Totally.
guy and finding that person who can be your partner for a long time helps a lot too.
Very good. Okay, one other question I just wanted to ask, because you sort of hinted at it, that out of all the band members, you seem to be the most musically or theoretically inclined. So let's just talk a
Right.
little bit about how you work in a music setting where some people understand and know music, and some people they're just like, well, I don't know what chord I'm playing. I just know it sounds really great, and I know how to make it, and I know when it fits in. Like their ear is totally
Yeah.
tuned. So, obviously you have that experience. You're just telling me that half the guys on the Newsboys don't even read music, really. So, how does that work? How do you make music with a collective of people, some that understand the theory of it and some that don't?
Um, Hang on, they're making me move my car.
Oh no.
So I'm
We
so
knew this was
sorry.
going to happen.
Um,
Hey, no problem. You
we
just go
we
for
knew it
it.
was possible.
Yeah, yeah. We're
Hang on.
just here. Like,
Let
trust
me
me,
just.
we're on the iPhone here, so
Oh, I'm live on the air.
I know.
So
Sorry, just pull up over there. Hit the drive right there.
okay.
okay.
Sorry. I thought you were going to be done.
All right. So now
Oh,
they're gonna make me drive and move the car
Oh yeah.
while we're
Okay.
speaking.
So,
So
folks, let
let's
me
see.
just give you a word of advice. Do not text and drive, but it's okay if you're on a live podcast with video while you're
I'm just
driving,
gonna.
but just don't text and drive.
The problem is that it's not even my car, so I'm gonna make the owner of the car move it.
Okay. Now we're just out walking.
Now we're outside. At least I can show you the stage
Oh
set
yeah.
up.
Come on, show
You
me
can-
around. I'd love
you-
to
you-
see. Oh,
yeah,
hilarious.
we're like
Oh, that's great.
downtown. You can see it
Oh,
behind me.
just
They
like
they get it all
literally
set.
out in the open, not even really any stands. Are people just standing all around when you're doing your concert?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Oh,
like an
wow.
hour long event, so people will just
Mhm.
come in, and they'll come in, and then we'll rock for about an hour, and then it's all over, and people go back to normal life. So anyway,
Okay, back on track.
sorry.
Talking
So
about
so
merging
back to the question.
musicians.
I'm just
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So I think with that, it's just like recognizing what musicians tend to go one of two ways. Either
Yeah.
they are really theory, where they read music like a book. Like for instance, my wife is not musical at all, but she will sit down with any sheet music, and she can play anything.
Yeah.
And like, and she's not a professional musician, so we always joke about that. That like, she'll put the music in front of me, and I'll just struggle to play it, and she's like, "You do this for a living," and she'll make fun of me. So,
Yeah.
um, and then there's like one of my daughters is like can play anything by ear. So I'll say a song, and she'll just be like, "Oh, I can play that," and she'll just sit down there and play it. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people that play by ear feel like they're left out, like they're not real musicians or something like that. But I think it's two completely different brains. It's
Right.
a right brain, left brain thing, and it seems like there's very few people that have them both.
Mm-hmm.
Most seem to have one or another. So I think that's, as a kid in church, we use charts with chord progressions. And so I learned basically like a modified version of like the number system, but we would just use the chart over the lyric with the bass note. And then that was kind of cool because if you were a creative person, it really left you with some leeway to put your own expression into the song, so you didn't
Yeah.
feel like you were tied to somebody else's thing. So that was really great for me to learn that way, because when I joined Newsboys, that's exactly how we did things. It was just like you kind of knew the chord, what the chord was going to be, but it was really up to you
Mm-hmm.
to play upon that bass idea and have some expressiveness in that. So, but yeah, I think too, as a worship leader, it's just as like we were talking about, just trying to identify the strengths and really and
Yeah.
push those and always be positive and always encourage your teams. I'm sure that's that's one thing I've learned is to as I've gotten older, is to whatever constructive things you have to say to your team, always temper it with some positive reinforcement too. That
Yeah.
always helps for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you something, just as you were talking about kind of merging together, and I'm just looking on the site here. I'm gonna show you something that's kind of cool. And maybe you didn't know this about PraiseCharts, so I'm just gonna show everyone. I was looking for a Newsboys song, but I couldn't find it with Newsboys, so I'm just gonna take one of the most recent songs we've done, which is this "Plead the Blood" by Brandon Lake, Cody Carnes, Chris Davenport. I'm sure you're familiar with these guys. But as you can see, we've got like the whole piano, vocal, all that kind of stuff. But then as you're talking about, now this is for people that read music. If you're not someone that reads
Yeah.
music, we've got this new thing called stage charts. I don't know if you've seen this at all, but this is like
Oh,
the
very cool.
whole song, and these are all free all across Praise Charts, but we just take the whole song and just narrow it down to only the chords. And then if you are in a mode where you're like, you read music and you're wanting to develop skills of how to play more by ear, these might be a great tool for you to use, because you're forced to not depend on the note for note kind of thing. So anyways, I
Very
just
cool.
thought I would like show you that, since we were talking about, the blend. And you're right, there are like right brain, left brain types of people. And clearly the Newsboys is an example of a very successful band that can merge the two types of musicians together. And I mean, if you are someone just listening who plays by ear mostly and don't read music, I think both Jeff and I would say, like, you're still a musician. In fact, those of us that read music crave the skill of being able to play by ear. The same way people that just play by ear probably think, man, I wish I could understand a little bit more about what's behind what I'm doing,
Yeah.
right? So, anyways.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've been in some interesting positions where I've written string arrangements too for orchestras, or string arrangements for our songs. And, hey, I've been in that position where I had to go to some experienced arrangers and say, hey, can you help me
Yeah.
trans transform this into music that these string players can read? I had no idea, and there's no shame
Yeah.
in that. We're all on the same team.
Totally. Totally. Okay, well, Jeff, this has been fun. It's been a little bit, off the cuff as you get booted out of your car, a little bit of driving,
I did.
You don't even know whose car you're in, so that's crazy. But
Uh,
I love it. You know, people, sometimes we just need to be real with the places that we're in. You just got to like run with it. Even, yes, I just,
that's
more
right.
of that on Sunday mornings would be great. A little bit less script and a little bit more show us your real self. I think this is what people want to see, and
Yeah.
I want to be like that. And I appreciate the conversation. Please say hi to the rest of the band for us, and in particular, Adam. I was hoping to be able to meet him today, but that didn't work out. But congrats to Adam for
Yeah.
joining the band,
Yeah.
and what a journey
Yeah.
he's going to be on. So say hi from Ryan Dahl and the team at PraiseCharts. We'd
Absolutely.
and one last pitch is, if you ever need charts, seriously, you just email me. I'll hook you up. I know somebody. So I
Awesome.
would love to
Awesome. I
see our
appreciate it.
charts make their way through. All right. Thank you. This is Jeff
Awesome.
Frankenstein from the Newsboys, Ryan Dahl from PraiseCharts, and I hope you've been encouraged today with our conversation, and good luck on the road to you. Check it out. See you later.
Thank you.
Finish.